Hello friends, I'm Alexis and welcome to my June TBR. Not me just realizing how insanely long this video is going to be because I'm the dumbass that decided to put like 20 books on my TBR this month. I'm proof that reading does not make you smart. Happy June, everybody, and happy Pride Month. I cannot believe we're already halfway through the year. That is wild. This year is going by so fast. And I am so excited for all of the great books I have to tell you about today and hopefully read in the month of June. There is kind of a theme around my TBR this month, and I actually have two separate TBRs. So it's a little different, but basically we have our queer books for Pride Month, and we have our Romantasy books because I am going to try to participate in Romantasyathon. So I guess let's just get right into it. Very first book I want to tell you about that I am hoping to read in June goes against both of the categories I just told you. It is my one outlier that doesn't really fit into the other themes this month, and that is, of course, the Literally Dead Book Club. And the June pick for the book club is You Know What You Did by K.T. Nguyen. So this one is more on the thriller side of the book club, and this is a new release, so I'm very excited to get into it and read an author I've never heard of before. Goodreads is comparing it to Lisa Jewell and Celeste Ng, and those are two of my favorite thriller authors ever, so can't wait for this one. So in this one, we follow Annie, and she grew up poor, but she seems to have it all now. She has a dream career, a stunning home, a devoted husband and daughter, when suddenly her mother, who was a Vietnam War refugee, suddenly dies, and her life starts to unravel. And suddenly she wakes up in a hotel room, naked next to a lifeless body. What? Like, this is gonna be so wild. I am so excited for it, and it's been a minute since I've read a really good thriller. And now that we got the outlier out of the way, let's get into all of the queer books I wanna read for Pride Month, of course. So, a little disclaimer, I love queer books. I love reading them all year round, as should you, but especially in June, I just love packing my TBR with like cozy, rom-com-y, YA romance, like, they are just so wholesome and make me feel so good, and I fly through them. So it's really just become a tradition for me that I love reading a bunch of them in the beginning of June. First up on my TBR, we have I Feed the Beast and the Beast Is Me by Jamison Shea. I'm obsessed with this cover. I say this all the time, but I'm such a slut for beautiful covers. So I believe this one is sapphic, and this is about a ballerina, and she lives in Paris. She's just tired of being overlooked and not really getting ahead, getting what she deserves for her talent. So she decides to go down into the catacombs under Paris and makes a deal with a pulsing blood river that offers her everything she's dreamed of and worked towards: power and awe. So she quickly realizes that she's not the only monster around, and this places a target on her back. As she descends into godhood and the mystifying underworld below, she's faced with the ultimate choice: continue to break herself for a world that doesn't love her back, or succumb to the darkness that wants her exactly as she is, monster's heart and all. I love queer horror so much, and it sounds like this one is going to be incredible. I've definitely never read anything like it, but I am so excited to get into this one and see what happens. Next up, you know I like reading a classic every month, and I really wanted like a queer classic for June. So I did a little research and I came across a book that I have never heard of before, and that is The Price of Salt, or Carol, and that's by Patricia Highsmith. One was first published in 1952 under the pseudonym Claire Morgan and is touted as the novel of a love society for bids. The book soon became a cult classic. This one follows a woman named Therese, and she's a stage designer, but by day she works in a department store. When one day a customer named Carol comes in and completely shatters her world. She is never the same, forever changed, completely different. After this encounter, Therese begins to stalk Carol. They do end up falling in love, and they actually set out on a trip across the US, and they're being followed by a private investigator who starts blackmailing them, and Carol is left with the choice of, does she choose between the love of her life or her daughter? After finding out about this one, I couldn't believe that I had never heard of it before. So I'm just super excited to read a piece of important queer history. It sounds like it's gonna be sort of a heartbreaking book, which you know I love. So yeah. This next one I am so excited to share with you because this is actually a local author that I met at a vampire trivia night they were hosting at a bar, and I was able to buy their book and get it signed, and it just sounds so fucking cute. I can't believe I've been able to hold off reading it. I knew this would be the perfect book to read in June, and that is The Lead City Rollers. It is by V.P. Andrews and illustrated by Tatiana Hill. This is a graphic novel about a queer vampire roller derby team. Like, are you kidding? Have you ever heard of a more fun concept for a book? Because I haven't. The art is so beautiful. I love all of the use of color. I believe this one is middle grade, so you know it's just gonna have like that wholesome coming of age, finding yourself, found family friendship that I love in books. And the vampires, what a perfect book. Next up, I had to throw this one on the list because I have not been able to stop thinking about it since I bought it, and that is A Dash of Salt and Pepper by Kosoko Jackson. Like, this cover, stunning. I just really am craving a food-centered rom-com-y queer romance. They are so fun. This one is about a guy named Xavier who ends up working at the restaurant that is owned by Logan, and they kind of butt heads to start with. I'm obsessed. I'm really hoping that the contents are as stunning as this cover is. I can't get over it. Next up, I have a bunch of audiobooks that I will be getting from my library. I just love a queer romance audiobook. I get so sucked into them. I end up finishing them all in one sitting. I can't help myself. So first up on the TBR is Don't Want You Like a Best Friend by Emma R. Albin. When making my TBR for this month, I truly could not help myself. If I see a Taylor Swift lyric as a title, I have to add it to the TBR. So this one is actually a Victorian romance, which are not my favorite, but I'm willing to give it a try because it looks so good. And this follows two debutantes who are trying to distract themselves from having to seek husbands by setting up their widowed parents, and instead they find a perfect match in each other. It says this is the lesbian Bridgerton / Parent Trap you never knew you needed, and I'm here for it. Give it to me, inject it into my veins. The next audiobook I've checked out from my library is Friday I'm in Love by Cameron Garrett. When I was perusing the Libby app, I saw this cover and I audibly gasped. I had to stop everything. I had to read the synopsis of this book because it is beautiful. And this one sounds like such a wholesome book that is just going to put the biggest smile on my face, so I cannot wait for it. This one is about a girl named Mahalia, and it's too late for a Sweet 16 party. But what about a coming out party? This is a love letter to romantic comedies, Sweet 16 blowouts, black joy, and queer pride. This one is a YA romantic comedy with lesbian rep, and I just have a great feeling that it is going to be a new favorite of mine. Even thinking about the synopsis, I just have a smile on my face. I know it is going to be so filled with joy, which is my favorite kind of queer story. I just had to pause to let the dogs out because that's how long this is taking me to film this. Okay, I am so excited for this next one, and I know I literally say that about everything, but cannot control my excitement. So this next one is The Romantic Agenda by Claire Kahn. I heard about this one from Katie Coulson and Gabby Reeds because according to them, this book has incredible asexual rep. And I'm just so excited. I have never read a book with asexual rep before. 30, flirty, and asexual, Joy is secretly in love with her best friend Malcolm, but she's never been brave enough to say so. I need to think of another adjective than excited. I'm ecstatic. I can't wait for this one. Next up, we have my little queer horror section, which I guess I Feed the Beast should have been in this section, but I didn't plan ahead. So first up, we have this stunning little book, Queer Little Nightmares, an anthology of monstrous fiction and poetry, edited by David Lee and Daniel Zamparelli. Saw this one in a bookstore and couldn't leave without it because of the gorgeous monster hand and her stunning long pink fingernails. And yeah, I just love an anthology. Yeah, can't wait to dive into this one. I think this will just be a really great book to kind of break up all of the chunkier books that I plan on reading this month, and I'll be able to fly right through it. Next up, we have Queen of Teeth by Haley Piper. Have you guys ever seen that movie, Teeth? This is basically that, but in book form. So one day our main character named Yaya discovers that she has teeth growing somewhere that they shouldn't be. So I just can't wait to dive into this one. I think it's going to be disgusting. I think it's going to have the best body horror and just can't wait. And of course, we can't talk about a queer horror TBR without the king themselves, Eric LaRocca. And for this month, I am going to be reading The Trees Grew Because I Bled There collected stories. I have a love-hate relationship with their books. The first one I read, which was Things Have Gotten Worse Since We Last Spoke, incredible, 5 stars. I recommend it to everybody. Disgusting. And then after that, the few that I've read since, they just didn't hit as good. So I'm just forever searching for one that affects me as much as that first one did. And I'm hoping that this one will be it. Okay, we are finally done with that section of the TBR, and now we're moving on to our romantasy section. So for the months of June and July, I will be participating in Romantasyathon, which is a romance fantasy readathon. There is a huge bingo board of prompts. I am not assigning the books I want to read to each prompt. I'm just gonna read what I'm interested in and then hope that they fit the prompts. The goal is not to check off everything. It's really just to read some romantasy because I have found out that this is a genre that I really, really enjoy lately. So first up, to get it out of the way, I'm not gonna say anything because if you're on BookTube, you already know about this series. I have never read it. I always told myself I would never read it. And then my sister got into reading and this became her entire life, her entire world. And she unprompted dropped off this huge box set at my house of hers to borrow and read. And you know, I'm just trying to be a good sister, and I'm sure it will fit the romantasy prompts. And she is just pushing them on me, telling me they're incredible, they're the best thing she's ever read. She's already gotten 2 tattoos inspired by the series. Like, the obsession is real. So I guess we're trying this. No promises that I will actually get through all of these books, especially in June. Oh my God, I have so much to read otherwise. But I'm hoping by the end of the summer. So yeah, moving on. This next book is on my list of 12 books that I want to read in 2024. So I'm so excited to finally be able to cross it off the list. And that is Fear the Flames by Olivia Rose Darling. This book was actually a Christmas gift by the lovely Jessie Chamber Reads. I will link her below. This one is a very chunky book. I'm a little scared about it, just knowing how many other books I'm wanting to read in June, but that's what we signed up for. So this one is compared a lot to Fourth Wing, but like Fourth Wing done better. It has dragons, it has romance, it has a badass female main character. I've heard the romance is really, really good in this. And yeah, if any of these books are getting read this month, this is for sure it, because I have to cross it off of the list. Like, no more excuses. I have waited long enough. Knowing how incredibly long my TBR is for this month, I had to throw the next one on as sort of a little break. I know this is a book that I'll be able to fly through, and that is Radiance by Grace Draven. And this is the first in the Wrath King series. I've heard that this one has the trope of friends to lovers, which is just one of my favorite of all time. This one is about a man and a woman who are forced into an arranged marriage. They are not interested in each other at all, and they become friends and eventually lovers. So yeah, I am very, very new to the genre, but I've heard good things about this one, so I'm excited to give it a try, and it is on Kindle Unlimited. Last but not least, our final book of my June TBR is Baybound by Sarah Al-Arafi. This is a book I've been meaning to get to since January. Is that when it came out? February? One of them. It's been the whole year basically, and I just finally bought it because how could I resist this stunning cover? And I don't even know what it's about. I just know everybody loves it, and it just sounded like the perfect pick for Romantasyathon. So this one is about 2 elven sisters become imprisoned in the intoxicating world of the Fae, where danger and love lie wait. Historically, I don't love fairy books, but I'm willing to give it a try. I'm literally reading the Court of Thorns and Roses series this month, maybe, possibly. So yeah, I'm just gonna keep pushing fairy books on myself until I find one I enjoy, because there's gotta be one, right? If there's one, it's gonna be this one. I'm calling it. I'm gonna love her. Okay, we made it. So those are all of the books on my very, very ambitious July July. June TBR. Honestly, I shouldn't even call it a TBR. These are just hopefuls, because if I can make it through all of these books, who is she? And that's on top of summer being incredibly busy for me. Make sure you subscribe so you can check out my June wrap up and see how well I did. If you like this one, please give me a thumbs up. And if you would like to leave me a comment, please leave me a rainbow emoji for Pride Month, of course. As always, thank you so much for watching. I hope you read a good book today, and I will see you soon in my next one. Bye.